Welcome back to the deep dive. If you are a parent to a teenager right now, and let's define that as anyone between maybe 13 and 18.
That's the zone.
Yeah, that complex territory. I just wanted to start by just acknowledging how incredibly hard that is.
It is.
It's such a demanding chapter, not just for them, obviously. Their brains are going through this massive reorganization, but for the parent. It often feels like you've completely lost the playbook.
Oh, completely. The playbook you had for your 10-year-old is suddenly, it's not just useless, it's actually counterproductive.
Right.
And those feelings that come up, the frustration, the constant worry about where they're headed, that feeling of, helplessness when the communication just stops.
It grinds to a halt.
It does.
Yeah.
And those feelings are not just normal, they are absolutely exhausting. The old ways of talking, which were kind of built on authority, they don't work anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, they can actively damage the relationship.
It feels like every single conversation is a landmine. You're trying to navigate it, and you're just waiting for something to go wrong. You reach out, and you just hit a wall.
A brick wall, or worse, you get that sharp cutting retort that just floors you.
Exactly. So the real question for us today is, how do we shift that dynamic? How do we get out of that cycle of, reaction and correction and into something that feels more like mindful connection?
That is the mission for this deep dive. 100%. We're going to be drawing on the work of consultant psychiatrist Dr. Phang Cheng Kar, who created the Mindful Gym program. And he offers this brilliant roadmap, really. It focuses on two specific but integrated frameworks. First, there's a tool for immediate connection called LENoVA. And second, the big one for conflict resolution, which is Nonviolent Communication, or NVC.
And our promise to you listening is that we're going to give you clarity, a lot of empathy for how hard this is, but most importantly, actionable steps. This isn't just theory. We want to give you a structured approach you can literally use tonight to move from that high conflict feeling to, something more like co-creation with your teen.
And to anchor all of this, we really have to start with the foundational idea behind NVC, which comes from its developer, Dr. Marshall Rosenberg.
Okay, what's the core idea?
The idea is simple, but it's really profound. It's this: every message is an expression of a need.
Every message is an expression of a need.
Every single one. If you just sit with that for a second, it changes everything. Because if every time a teen shuts down or pushes back or yells, they're actually trying to communicate an unmet need, like for autonomy or respect or just rest.
Then it's not about you.
Exactly. It shifts your response away from blame and judgment and toward curiosity and connection. You start asking, what is the need here, instead of what is wrong with you?
Wow. Okay, so the messy room isn't a personal attack on my sense of order.
Right.
It could be about their need for control over their one private space in the world.
It could be. And that changes the whole conversation, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Okay, so let's unpack this dual strategy, this idea that you need emotional safety before you can solve a problem. So Dr. Phang's whole approach hinges on this idea that you need two different tools. You can't solve a problem if the other person feels attacked or unheard.
You just can't. If their defenses are up, if they're in that fight or flight mode, any attempt at logical problem solving is going to fail miserably.
So you need one tool just for connection and then a second one for the actual conflict resolution.
And that's the crucial insight. It's why LENoVA always comes first.
Okay, so let's talk about LENoVA. It's an acronym. What's its purpose?
Its purpose is for those moments of high emotion. Your teen comes to you, they're venting, they're upset. They just need to feel heard.
Not fixed.
Absolutely not fixed. They need to feel emotionally safe. LENoVA is about creating that psychological safety net before you even think about doing the heavy lifting of solving the problem.
Okay, let's go through the letters then, because I feel like each one targets a trap that we as parents fall into all the time.
It does. So it starts with LL is for listen.
Which sounds so simple.
It sounds simple, but it's the foundation. And it's not just about not talking. It's about being fully present.
Right.
It means you have to silence your own internal monologue. That voice in your head that's already jumping ahead, formulating a solution, thinking about how this reflects on you.
Or preparing your counterargument for when they finally take a breath.
Exactly that. You are listening only to understand, not to reply. That's mindful listening.
That is so much harder than it sounds. Especially if they bring up something that, triggers your own anxiety, a bad grade, a problem with a friend.
Yeah.
Your instinct is to fix it instantly.
It is. Our brains are wired for that.
Yeah.
But if your goal is connection, you have to signal that you're receiving their message, not just preparing your broadcast.
Which leads to E.
E is for empathy.
Yep.
And empathy, in this context, means reflecting their emotions back to them, but without any judgment.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. So your teen storms in, throws their bag on the floor, and says, "School is so stupid. I hate history. I'm just going to quit."
Okay, my heart rate just went up hearing that. My mind is already at, you can't quit? What about college? What about your future?
Of course, that's the normal parental reaction. But empathy sounds different. Empathy sounds like, wow, it sounds like you are feeling incredibly frustrated right now.
Oh.
Maybe even totally overwhelmed by that history class. You're naming the emotion you hear. You're not agreeing they should quit. You're just validating the feeling.
And that leads right into what I think is the hardest part for me, and I think for most parents.
Let me guess. The no.
The no. For no advice. Resisting that powerful, overwhelming urge to fix it.
It's a huge hurdle. We see ourselves as problem solvers. It's part of the job description, right?
Right.
But when a teenager is venting, they're not asking for a 5-point plan. They're asking for someone to hold the emotional space for them. They're asking for connection.
And when you jump in with advice, well, have you tried talking to the teacher? You should organize your notes this way. What message are you sending?
You're inadvertently sending the message, you're not capable of solving this yourself.
Oof, yeah.
And that undermines their growing sense of competence. Dr. Phang really emphasizes that if you just hold that space, if you resist giving advice, you show them this incredible respect. And often they figure it out themselves, or they'll ask for your advice later when they're calm.
Okay, so we've listened, we've shown empathy, we've heroically given no advice. What's next?
Next is V for validation.
How is that different from empathy?
It's a subtle but important distinction. Empathy is about reflecting their feeling. Validation is about acknowledging that their feeling is real and makes sense from their perspective.
Even if you don't agree with their actions or their conclusion?
Exactly. Validation is separate from agreement.
Yeah.
It's just saying, given how much pressure you're under with exams, I can totally see why you feel that angry, or your feelings make perfect sense here.
You're telling them they're not crazy for feeling the way they do.
Yes, you're saying their internal experience is valid. That's an incredibly powerful gift to give someone.
Okay. L-E.
No.
V. What's the A?
A is for affirmation. This is the wrap-up. It's this moment of reassurance that reminds them of their own strength.
So it's like zooming out from the problem.
Precisely. It's saying, this is a really tough situation, but you are so capable, you are resilient, and no matter what, you are loved. It reinforces their worth, separate from whatever problem they're facing.
So you use LENoVA to build this bridge to lower the emotional temperature.
You get everyone's nervous system back to a calm place.
And only then, once that connection is solid and they feel seen and safe, only then do you bring in the second tool.
That's when you introduce NVC, the framework for actually solving the problem, for addressing the conflict or the unmet needs.
And NVC it's nonviolent communication. It has its own structure.
A very clear 4-step structure: observation, feeling, need, and request. And by following those steps, you change the entire conversation.
From you're the problem to what?
To here's what's going on inside of me, and here's what I'm hoping we can create together. It's a total shift from confrontation to collaboration.
Okay, so the flow is critical. LENoVA first to connect, then NVC to solve.
That's the seamless flow. You stop trying to solve problems when everyone is emotionally activated. It just doesn't work.
Before we really dig into the 4 pillars of NVC, I think it's crucial to look at what we're trying to replace.
Yes. We have to be honest about our own autopilot responses.
The habits we fall into.
Exactly. And Dr. Phang provided some really potent case studies that show the kind of language we parents use that just instantly triggers defensiveness or withdrawal in a teenager.
And looking at them, it seems like the common thread is the language of shame and blame.
It always is. We're not talking about the behavior anymore. We start judging their character, their identity, their worth.
And we do it because we're scared, right? We're worried about them.
Of course. Our worry and our stress come out sideways. It comes out as judgment.
Okay, let's take the classic one, the one that causes so much friction. Case example 1, the messy room.
The archetypal parent-teen conflict.
So a parent walks in, sees clothes on the floor, plates, whatever, and what they see isn't just a mess. They see it as a reflection on their parent.
As a sign of disrespect. So the words that come out are loaded. Things like, look at this room, it's shameful.
Have you no pride? Or why are you so selfish?
And boom, the moment you use a word like shameful or selfish, the conversation is over.
Why? What happens in their brain?
They stop hearing anything about the clothes on the floor. All they hear is an attack on their identity. I am a shameful person. I am selfish. So they have to defend their very character. The fight is no longer about a messy room. It's about their worth as a human being.
And we escalate it, too. We use these huge exaggerations. I've told you a million times and you just ignore me like I'm invisible.
The always and never language. You're always doing this. You never listen. It's a guaranteed way to start a fight because all they have to do is find one exception to prove you wrong.
And then there's the deepest cut, which is linking it to family values. We raised you better than this.
This brings disgrace to our family, or is this how you show gratitude for everything we do for you?
That sequence,
Yeah.
the shame, the exaggeration, the appeal to values, it's like a perfect recipe for a defensive explosion.
It's a guaranteed trigger. They're either going to fight back with everything they have, or they're going to shut down completely. There's a great quote from the psychologist,
Dr. Henry Cloud.
What's that?
He said, if you want to raise rebels, raise them with shame.
Wow, that's powerful. And we see the same pattern in the second case study, right? The fear around video games.
Case example 2. Game balance, or what parents often call addiction. This is such an emotional topic because it's tied to our deepest fears about their future.
So the language becomes about future failure.
Yes, these fear-based projections. You just sit there playing games all day like you have no future.
Or we layer on the guilt. We work so hard to give you this life and you're just throwing it away on mindless entertainment.
And again, the labels. You're becoming so undisciplined. It's just shameful. And when all that fails, we resort to the threat of control.
That's it. I'm taking the console away. I'm cutting the Wi-Fi.
And you might get compliance. But it's compliance through fear and resentment. It's not cooperation.
You're not building a skill. You're just building resentment.
Precisely. Coercion is not connection. You're teaching them that power and force are how you solve problems, not mutual respect.
Which brings us to the third example, which is maybe the most triggering for parents.
Case example 3, rude behavior or disrespect.
Yeah, the eye roll, the sarcastic tone.
This is where our own anxiety about losing control really spikes, and our reaction is almost always to pull rank.
Watch your tone. Don't you dare speak to me like that.
Or the more subtle, but maybe more damaging, shaming of their intelligence. You think you're so smart now, don't you? But don't forget who's in charge here.
And there's one more that's really toxic, which is the threat of withdrawing love or kindness.
Yes. If you keep talking to me like this, you can't expect any kindness from me in return.
What does a teenager hear when we say that?
They hear that our love, our patience, our support, it's all conditional. It's transactional. It's something they have to earn through obedience.
And that's the big takeaway from all this, isn't it? For you listening to this, we are modeling communication for our kids.
Constantly.
And if we model reactivity and judgment and threats, we're teaching them that those are the tools you use when you're stressed.
Whereas LENoVA and NVC, they model something totally different. They modeled self-awareness, emotional regulation, and collaboration.
Okay, so now that we've seen the traps we all fall into, let's build the solution. Let's get really deep into the 4 pillars of NVC. This is the mechanism for turning that parental frustration into something constructive.
It is. It's a systematic process.
Yeah.
And it all starts with pillar 1, observation.
Observation versus judgment.
This is the absolute foundation, and it's where most attempts at NVC fall apart if we rush it.
So what's the difference? What makes something a pure observation?
An observation has to be neutral, factual, and specific. Think of it like a camera recording. It's just the data with no interpretation.
No labels, no blame.
0. Judgment is when we add all of that on top. Our interpretation, our moral evaluation.
And the reason this matters so much is psychological, right?
Completely. An observation invites dialogue. A judgment shuts it down.
Because you have to defend yourself against a judgment.
Instantly, your brain goes into self-defense mode. But it's very hard for anyone, even a teenager, to argue with a verifiable fact.
Okay, let's use the examples from the material, the global label. You're so lazy. That's a judgment.
It's a judgment on their entire character. And they can immediately fight back because they know they're not lazy 100% of the time. They can think of one time they weren't lazy, and your whole argument falls apart.
Right, so what's the NVC-aligned observation instead?
I've noticed you've been lying in bed for most of the morning and you haven't started your schoolwork.
That is really hard to argue with. It's just a statement of fact.
They might argue about why they were in bed, but they can't deny that they were. It keeps the conversation grounded in a shared reality, not in your assumption about their character.
Let's try another one. The classic time trap. You're always on your phone.
The word always is an exaggeration. It's technically a lie, even if it feels true in that moment of frustration, and the teen will pounce on that.
No, I wasn't. I put it down for 5 minutes at dinner.
Exactly. So the observation has to be specific.
I saw that you picked up your phone 6 times during dinner, and you spent the last hour and a half on TikTok.
See how different that feels? The specificity removes the argument. It's just data.
It forces you, as the parent, to be more mindful, too. You have to actually pay attention to the specifics, not just your general feeling of annoyance.
That's a huge part of it. It trains us to be more precise and less reactive. Let's take another one. You're so irresponsible.
Big global judgment.
Huge. The observation. You didn't let me know you were going to be late coming home yesterday, and I was worried.
Ah, so you connect the observation of the behavior directly to your own experience.
Yes. It's not about their character flaw. It's about a specific action and its impact on you. It's about behavior, which can be changed, not identity, which feels fixed.
Okay, so once you've made that clean, neutral observation, you move to the second pillar.
Yes, pillar 2, which is expressing your feeling using an I statement.
This is about taking emotional ownership.
100%. The rule is simple, but it's so powerful. You express your internal state without blaming the teen for causing it.
So instead of, you make me worried,
It's, I feel worried.
that small shift in language seems to change everything.
It's the difference between an accusation and a vulnerable share. When you say, I feel worried, you're modeling emotional literacy. You're taking responsibility for your own feelings. When you say, you make me feel, you're essentially handing them your emotion and making it their fault.
Which is a weapon of guilt.
It is, and we have to be careful of the common trap here.
What's that?
When you say, I feel like you, or I feel that you.
That's not a feeling?
No, you're hiding a judgment behind the word feel. I feel like you don't care is a thought. It's an accusation.
A true feeling is an actual emotional or physiological state. Sad, anxious, frustrated, tired, happy.
Exactly. Let's compare some of those really triggering blaming phrases with the NVC-aligned version.
Okay. A big one is, you make me feel so disrespected.
That's an attack. It forces them to defend their intentions. The NVC version is, I feel hurt and tense when I hear shouting.
You own the feeling hurt and tense, and you link it to the observable behavior shouting.
It's so much less inflammatory. Here's another one, a really heavy one. You make me feel like a bad parent.
Oh, that's a huge burden to put on a kid.
It's immense. The more vulnerable, honest NVC statement would be, I feel insecure and unsure of myself when I see you struggling and I don't know how to help.
Wow, that's so different. That invites empathy from them, rather than defensiveness. You're just being honest about your own struggle.
It changes the entire dynamic. Or how about just general anger? You make me so angry all the time.
The NBC way would be softer, more specific.
Right. I feel really upset and overwhelmed when there's a lot of conflict and shouting between us. The vulnerability of upset and overwhelmed is much more disarming than the accusation of angry.
And that feeling of being shut out.
Yeah.
The blaming way is, you make me feel ignored.
The NVC way, the connection building way, is I feel sad and disconnected when I speak and I don't get a response.
When we use this language, we're not just trying to get what we want. We're modeling for them that it's okay to be vulnerable.
That's the deeper lesson. We're teaching them that feelings are just information and that you can express them in a way that builds connection instead of tearing it down.
Okay, this brings us to what I think is the most transformative part of the whole NVC process. Pillar 3.
I agree. This is where the magic happens. It's the distinction between needs and strategies.
And if we don't get this right, the whole thing can fall apart.
It collapses.
Yeah.
Because this is where we find common ground. The crucial distinction is this. Needs are universal human qualities.
Like what?
Connection, respect, autonomy, safety, support, peace, rest. These are things every single human being on the planet needs. You need them, and your teenager needs them.
And because they're universal.
Our core needs are never in conflict.
Okay, wait. That's a huge statement. If our needs are never in conflict, where does all the conflict come from?
It comes from our strategies. The strategy is the specific action we take to try and meet our need. That's where we clash.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Teenager is in their room, blasting music. Their need might be for autonomy, for self-expression, for joy.
Okay.
You're downstairs trying to work. Your need is for peace, for focus, for order.
Those needs don't conflict. My need for peace doesn't cancel out their need for joy.
Not at all, but the strategies do. Your strategy to get peace is turn that music off right now. Their strategy for autonomy is keep playing my music and ignore the person trying to control me.
And now we're in a battle of wills over whose strategy wins.
Exactly. And Dr. Fang says this is where we have to shift from an I versus you mindset to a we perspective. The question becomes, how can we together find a way to meet my need for peace and your need for joy?
That's a game changer. Let's apply that to the messy room.
Okay? Your strategy is clean this room now. Your underlying need is for order, cooperation, maybe even health and safety.
And the teen who just got home from a long day at school and collapsed on their bed. Their need is for rest and autonomy over their own space and schedule.
So if you just shout your strategy, clean it now, all they hear is, my need for rest is irrelevant.
But if I can pause and use NVC, I can name both needs.
Yes. When I see the dishes on the floor observation, I feel stressed feeling because I have a real need for order and cooperation in our shared home need.
And then you acknowledge theirs.
And I can see you're resting on your bed, which tells me you have a real need for rest right now, acknowledging their need.
And then the question.
So how can we meet both needs? My need for order and your need for rest.
And that opens the door. It's not about me winning anymore.
It opens the door to co-creation. The new strategy isn't forced obedience. It might be, okay, you can rest for an hour, but would you be willing to have the room clean by 7 p.m.?
So both needs get honored. That's huge. What about when a teen is withdrawn and silent?
Another great example. A parent's anxiety spikes. Their strategy is often to push harder for conversation. What's wrong? You have to talk to me.
And the parents need theirs connection and safety, to know their kid is okay.
Yes. But the teen, in their silence, has a powerful need for space, for privacy, for time to process, autonomy.
And the more the parent pushes, the more the teen retreats to protect that need.
It's a vicious cycle, but the NVC parent can acknowledge both. I can see you really need some space to yourself right now, acknowledging their need. At the same time, I'm feeling really worried because I have a need for connection and to know that you're safe, stating my need.
And then you can work on a strategy.
Would you be willing to just check in with me for 2 minutes before you go to bed? Just to let me know you're okay. The rest of the evening is yours.
You're moving from control to collaboration. You're acknowledging their need for freedom is just as valid as your need for reassurance.
That's it. You transform a battle of wills into a joint mission to find a strategy that honors the relationship.
Okay, which brings us to the final step, the fourth pillar. You've done the observation, the feeling, the need. Now you have to make the request.
The action step. But as we've been saying, a request is not a demand.
How do you make sure it's a real request?
It has to be clear, doable, specific, and, this is crucial, it has to use positive action language.
Meaning you say what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do.
Exactly. Our brains are just wired to process positive commands much more easily than negative ones. Don't think of a pink elephant. What do?
Think of a pink elephant.
Right. So instead of don't leave your wet towel on the bed, the request is, would you be willing to hang your towel on the hook after your shower?
Okay, so let's break down the DOs of a good request.
First, as we said, be specific and observable. Be more respectful is a vague wish. It's not a doable request.
A specific request would be,
When you disagree with me, would you be willing to use a calm tone of voice and avoid raising your voice? The teen knows exactly what behavior you're asking for.
okay, what else?
Make it doable in the present moment or in the near future. Plan your entire college application process is overwhelming. Would you be willing to spend 20 minutes with me tonight looking at 2 college websites? Is a doable request.
And the really big one, check for willingness.
Always. Use invitational language. Would you be open to? How would you feel about it? Are you willing to? The moment you remove their choice, it's not a request anymore. It's a demand.
And the test of whether it's a true request is if you are genuinely okay with them saying no.
That's the acid test. If no is not an acceptable answer for you, you haven't made a request, you've issued an ultimatum. And if they say no, that doesn't mean the conversation is over.
But it just means you have to go back to pillar 3.
Exactly. You go back and say, okay, so that strategy doesn't work for you. Let's find another one that can still meet my need for order and your need for autonomy.
So the don'ts are pretty clear then. Don't make vague requests.
Don't use ultimatums or veiled threats. And please, please don't use guilt or shame to try and manipulate them into saying yes.
After all I've done for you, the least you can do is.
That language is poison to trust and connection. The goal here isn't to win the battle and get instant compliance.
It's to build a long-term relationship based on cooperation and mutual respect.
And when you make a real request, you're teaching them a vital life skill, how to negotiate their needs and boundaries respectfully, which is one of the most important things we can teach them.
Okay, so we have the full 4-step NVC script. But we all know that in the heat of the moment, when a door has just been slammed, trying to remember all 4 steps in order is, well, it's a lot to ask.
It's nearly impossible. Your own nervous system is hijacked. That's why Dr. Phang introduced these more advanced real-world applications, starting with the emergency brake.
Which he calls micro-NVC.
Micro-NVC. It's a technique for those high-pressure, fast-moving situations. It's designed to do one thing: interrupt your reactive loop.
So what's the formula? It must be short.
It's very short. It's just
Pause.
then feel, need, and a short request.
So you're dropping the observation for speed.
You are, because the power of this technique is almost entirely in that first step, the pause.
The pause.
It's everything. It's like the mindful STOP practice. Even a 3-second pause is enough to shift your brain out of its reactive amygdala-driven state
The fight or flight center.
and bring your prefrontal cortex back online, your thinking, empathetic brain. The pause isn't just a moment of silence. It's a complete physiological and cognitive reset. It's what allows you to choose your response instead of just running your old reactive program.
Okay, let's make this really practical. A teen interrupts an important work call. The reactive script is, can't you see I'm busy? You're so selfish.
Okay, so with micro-NVC, you first. Pause. 3 deep breaths. Then you check in. Feel, need, request.
I'm feeling tense, because I need to focus. Now need. Can we please talk in 15 minutes? Request.
Perfect. See how clean that is? You've stated your reality, set a boundary, and made a clear request, all without any shame or blame.
Let's do another one. The door slam. It's so triggering.
Instantly triggers that feeling of being disrespected. So instead of yelling through the door,
You pause. Wait for your own anger to subside for a second, then. I feel worried. Because I need safety in our home need. Can you please close the door more gently next time? Request.
and you've even thrown in some empathy there. I can hear you're upset.
That's brilliant. You're addressing the behavior without invalidating their emotion.
What about a chronic issue, like the dish is always being left in the sink?
Instead of the global blame, you never clean up after yourself. You pause.
Then I'm feeling frustrated, because I really need a sense of shared care in our home. Can you please wash your dishes before 8 p.m. tonight? Request.
You're modeling emotional regulation under pressure. And you're setting a clear, respectful boundary. It's incredibly powerful. Okay, so micro-NVC is the emergency brake. What about for those bigger conversations, when you need to give some difficult feedback, but it's not a crisis moment?
For those, we can use the sandwich method, but we augment it with a really critical ingredient for teenagers.
And that is empathy.
Empathy. The sandwich method is a classic communication tool. It's designed to make difficult feedback easier to hear by cushioning it with care.
So let's break down the structure. It starts with the top slice of bread.
The top slice is appreciation or connection. You always start by anchoring the conversation in the strength of the relationship, something genuine. I love you, and I'm so glad we can talk about hard things.
Then comes the filling.
The filling is the core NVC message. The observation, your feeling, your need, and your request. All that specific, non-blaming language we just practiced.
And then you close with the bottom slice of bread.
The bottom slice is encouragement or partnership. You end on a note of warmth and shared confidence. I know we can figure this out together. I believe in our ability to find a solution that works for both of us.
So where does the empathy come in? Why is that so crucial for teens?
Because adolescence is a time of such intense self-consciousness. Any kind of feedback can feel like a devastating personal attack.
They're very sensitive to criticism.
Incredibly.
Yeah.
So by adding a specific moment of empathy, of acknowledging their perspective or their feelings, you can disarm that reflexive defensiveness.
So you might insert it right before the request.
Exactly. Something like, and I know you've got a lot of pressure from school right now, and I really want to understand what that's like for you. That little buffer can make all the difference.
Okay, let's put it all together now. Let's see how this full augmented structure, the sandwich, the NVC filling, the empathy works in some of those really tough scenarios.
Let's start with the gaming issue. Application 1, game balance. The parent's fear is addiction, but the language cannot be about shame.
Okay, so you start with the top slice.
A connection. Honey, I care so much about you and your future, and I really value that we can talk about what's going on in your life.
Then the filling, the NVC core.
Lately, I've observed that you've been gaming from about 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. most nights, observation. And when I see that, I feel concerned and, honestly, a little helpless feeling, because I have a deep need for you to be building healthy habits that support your growth and well-being need.
Okay, now the empathy buffer.
And listen, I get it. I know games are a huge way you connect with your friends and a great way to unwind. I'm not trying to take that joy away from you.
And then the request in the bottom slice.
Would you be willing to sit down with me and look at the week schedule to find a balance that makes sure you get some outside time and your schoolwork is done before you log on? Request, I really believe we can find a solution that honors your need for fun and my need for peace of mind about your health partnership.
That is a completely different conversation. It's
Yeah.
about partnership, not punishment.
Worlds apart. Let's try another one we haven't really touched on. A teen gets a bad test result.
Ooh, that's a big trigger for parental anxiety about the future. The knee-jerk reaction is blame. How did you let this happen? Study hard enough.
Total panic mode. Okay, let's use the sandwich method. Top slice first.
Connection. I saw your history grade, and the very first thing I want you to hear is that I love you no matter what, and I'm on your team.
Beautiful. Now the NVC filling.
When I saw that D on the test observation, I felt a big wave of worry and, yes, some disappointment feeling, because I have a need to feel confident that you're getting the preparation you need for your future need.
Good. Now the empathy. This is so important here.
Right. You have to acknowledge their pain first. And I can only imagine you must be feeling pretty terrible about this yourself, maybe discouraged. I get that feeling.
That is so key. You're joining them in their feeling instead of standing opposite them in judgment.
Now the request and the close.
Would you be open to spending 20 minutes with me tomorrow morning? Not to be mad, but just to brainstorm a new way to study for the next one? Request. Because I know you are so capable, and I want to be your partner in figuring out a system that really works for you.
Thank you for considering my request.
You've turned a moment of potential crisis and shame into an opportunity for connection and collaborative problem solving.
We've spent so much time talking about the words we use, the external communication.
The script.
The script, yeah. But Dr. Phang makes it really clear that none of this works if our own internal state is a mess.
It's the foundation of everything. Mindful parenting always begins with the parent's own inner work. If we are stressed, reactive, and self-critical on the inside, these tools will break the second we're under pressure.
And we have to be realistic. We're not going to do this perfectly.
Not even close.
We're going to mess up, we're going to get tired and worried and triggered, and we're going to react.
Yeah.
Which is why this idea of self-compassion isn't just a nice to have, it's essential.
It is the absolute antidote to the cycle of parental guilt and shame.
So what does self-compassion look like in this context?
It means that when you mess up, when you snap at your kid, you meet that moment with kindness and understanding, not with judgment. The automatic parental response is often, ugh, I'm a terrible parent. I ruined everything. I should have known better.
And that shame just keeps you stuck. It paralyzes you.
Exactly. But self-compassion allows you to reset.
Yeah.
It allows you to be human. And when we model that for our kids, when they see us mess up and then be kind to ourselves about it, we're teaching them emotional resilience.
We're teaching them that mistakes aren't a reason for self-hatred. They're just data. They're opportunities to learn.
Which is maybe the most powerful lesson a parent can teach. So it's about changing that internal self-talk. Instead of stewing in the mistake, it's about saying, okay, that was hard. I spoke from fear, not from love.
And then the pivot.
And then the pivot. I can begin again. I can repair this. There's a wonderful saying, it's not about being a perfect parent. It's about staying connected, even after disconnection.
And self-compassion is the thing that lets you repair the connection quickly. If you spend 2 days beating yourself up because you yelled, that's 2 days of missed connection.
But if you can forgive yourself in 2 minutes, you can go back to them, apologize sincerely, and re-engage. The repair is the most important part.
Okay, one final sort of technical point about our inner world and how it connects to NVC, the role of our thoughts.
Yes, this is an important clarification. In the formal NVC model from Dr. Rosenberg, thoughts are generally left out of the 4 steps.
Why is that?
Because our thoughts can so easily and so sneakily turn into judgments and interpretations. They can sound like blame.
So if I say, I think you're deliberately ignoring me, that's a thought, but it's really just an accusation.
It's a diagnosis of their intention, and it creates immediate separation. However, Dr. Phang suggests that we can use our thoughts mindfully if we're careful.
How so?
If you choose to share a thought, you have to make sure it's tied directly and honestly to your own feeling and need. The focus has to stay on your internal experience, not on diagnosing them.
Okay, let's contrast that. A judgmental thought that we might have is, you're wasting your life and being irresponsible.
Right. We would never say that out loud in an NVC conversation, but we could share the underlying thought in a more mindful way.
How would that sound?
It would sound like this. I feel concerned, feeling when I have the thought that you're spending so much time on screens, sharing the thought mindfully because I deeply value your health and your sense of balance in life need.
Ah, I see. The thought is used to provide context for your feeling, but the vulnerability is still anchored in your own feeling and need.
Exactly. Let's try another one. Judgmental thought. You don't care about this family at all.
The mindful alternative.
I feel sad feeling when I have the thought that we aren't spending much time connecting lately thought because our family connection is something I truly need and value need.
When you lead with your honest thoughts that are linked to your emotions, it invites dialogue.
But when you lead with a diagnosis or a judgment, you just slam the door shut. Mindful use of thought opens the heart. Unconscious use of thought triggers defensiveness.
This has been such a rich and, I think, really necessary deep dive. It feels like we're talking about completely re-architecting how we communicate with our teens.
We are. By using LENoVA and NVC, we're shifting our role. We're moving from being, reactive correction officers to being proactive connection guides.
Let's try and distill this down to the three biggest takeaways.
Mm-hmm.
The three things you can start doing tonight.
Okay.
For me, the first one has to be prioritize connection first, always. Before you try and solve a single problem, start with LENoVA.
Listen, empathy, no advice, validation, affirmation.
Secure that emotional safety net first. Make them feel seen and heard before you do anything else.
Okay, my number 2 would be own your feelings. Use those I statements to talk about your own internal world, your feelings and your needs, instead of projecting blame.
Remember the difference. I feel anxious because I have a need for order is safe and powerful.
You make me anxious is an attack.
Okay, and the third big takeaway.
For me, it's focus on shared needs. You have to shift your perspective from that me versus you battle over strategies.
And instead you ask that question, what universal human need are we both trying to meet right now?
Yes. Look for the shared ground. Is it about order, rest, connection, respect? And then from that place, you co-create a strategy that honors both of you.
The real beauty in all of this is that shift. It's moving away from trying to control them and toward inviting them to co-create solutions with you.
It validates their need for independence while still protecting your need for safety and connection. It's a framework for navigating that tension.
So a final thought to leave with you, a provocative and, I hope, encouraging one. Parenting a teenager means you are constantly learning. You have to adapt.
Every day.
And it is never, ever too late to begin again. That one small change in your language, that 3-second pause from micro-NVC, choosing one specific observation instead of one global label, that can create a huge positive shift in the quality of this incredibly important relationship.
Be present. Be as calm as you can be, and just be grateful for the opportunity to keep learning alongside this person who is becoming an adult right in front of your eyes. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. We really hope these tools give you a roadmap for calmer, more connected, and ultimately more joyful conversations in your home.